Act 1 of The Boors by Moliere. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Boors. Les Fachos. Dramatis Personae.
Naiad. Read by Leanne
YauEraste, in love with Orphise. Read by Tomas
Damis, guardian to Orphise. Read by Rob Board.
Lysandra, a boor. Read by Son of the Exiles.
Alcandre, a boor. Read by Sandra
SchmitAlcippe, a boor. Read by
Durante, a boor. Read by
NemoCaritides,
A boor.
read by Larry Wilson.
Ormin, a boor. Read by Roger
MelinFilinte, a boor. Read by Travis Mader.
La Montagne, servant to Eraste. Read by
ToddHWL'Epine, servant to Damis. Read by Chuck Williamson.
La Riviere, read by Joseph Tabler.
Orphise, in love with Eraste. Read by T.J. Burns.
Orphise, a female boor. Read by
SoniaClimene, a female boor. Read by Eva Davis.
Stage Directions, read by April Walters. Introductory Notice. Moliere dedicated The Boors to Louis XIV in the following words. Sire, I am adding one scene to the comedy, and a man who dedicates a book is a species of boor insupportable enough. Your Majesty is better acquainted with this than any person in the kingdom, and this is not the first time that you have been exposed to the fury of epistles dedicatory. But though I follow the example of others, and put myself in the rank of those I have ridiculed, I dare, however, assure your Majesty that what I have done in this case is not so much to present you a book, as to have the opportunity of returning your thanks for the success of this comedy. I owe, sire, that success, which exceeded my expectations, not only to the glorious approbation with which your Majesty honored this piece at first, and which attracted so powerfully that of all the world, but also to the idea, which you gave to me, to add a boor, of which yourself had the goodness to give me the idea, and which was proved by everyone to be the finest part of the work. I must confess, sire, I never did anything with such ease and readiness as that part, where I had your Majesty's commands to work. The pleasure I had in obeying them was to me more than Apollo and all the Muses, and by this I conceive what I should be able to execute in a complete comedy, were I inspired by the same commands. Those who are born in an elevated rank may propose to themselves the honor of serving your Majesty in great employments, but, for my part, all the glory I can aspire to is to amuse you. The ambition of my wishes is confined to this, and I think that, to contribute anything to the diversion of her king is, in some respects, not to be useless to France. Should I not succeed in this, it shall never be through want of zeal or study, but only through a hapless destiny, which often accompanies the best intentions, and which, to a certainty, would be a most sensible affliction to sire. Your Majesty's most humble, most obedient, and most faithful servant, Moliere. Prologue. The theatre represents a garden adorned with termini and several fountains, a Naiad coming out of the water in a shell.
Mortals, from grots profound I visit you, Gallia's great monarch in these scenes to view. Shall earth's wide circuit, or the wider seas, produce some novel sight your prince to please? Speak he, or wish, to him naught can be hard, whom as a living miracle you all regard. Fertile in miracles, his reign demands wonders at universal nature's hands. Sage, young, victorious, valiant and august, mild as severe, and powerful as he's just, his passions and his foes alike to foil, and noblest pleasures join to noblest toil. His righteous projects ne'er to misapply, hear and see all, and act incessantly. He who can this, can all, he needs but dare, and heaven in nothing will refuse his prayer. Let Lewis but command, these bounds shall move, and trees grow vocal as Dodona's grove. Ye nymphs and demigods whose presence fills their sacred trunks, come forth, so Lewis wills. To please him be our task, I lead the way. Quit now your ancient forms but for a day. With borrowed shape cheat the spectator's eye, and to theatric art yourselves apply.
Several dryads, accompanied by fauns and satyrs, come forth out of the trees and termini.
Hence royal cares, hence anxious application, his favourite work, to bless a happy nation. His lofty mind permit him to unbend, and to a short diversion condescend. The morn shall see him with redoubled force resume the burthen and pursue his course. Give force to laws, his royal bounty share, wisely prevent all wishes with his care. Contending lands to union firm dispose, and lose his own to fix the world's repose. But now let all conspire to ease the pressure of royalty by elegance of pleasure. Impertinence avaunt, nor come in sight, unless to give him more supreme delight.
The Naiad brings with her for the play one part of the persons she has summoned to appear, whilst the rest begin a dance to the sound of hautboy accompanied by violins. Act 1. Scene 1. Eraste, La Montagne.
Good heavens! Under what star am I born to be perpetually worried by bores? It seems that fate throws them in my way everywhere. Each day I discover some new specimen. But there is nothing to equal my bore of today. I thought I should never get rid of him. 100 times I cursed the harmless desire which seized me at dinner-time to see the play, where, thinking to amuse myself, I unhappily was sorely punished for my sins. I must tell you how it happened, for I cannot yet think about it coolly. I was on the stage, in a mood to listen to the piece which I had heard praised by so many. The actors began. Everyone kept silence, when with a good deal of noise, and in a ridiculous manner, a man with large rolls entered abruptly, crying out, "Hullo there, a seat directly!" and, disturbing the audience with his uproar, interrupted the play in its finest passage. Heavens! Will Frenchmen, although so often corrected, never behave themselves like men of common sense? Must we, in a public theatre, show ourselves with our worst faults, and so confirm by our foolish outbursts what our neighbours everywhere say of us? Thus I spoke, and whilst I was shrugging my shoulders, the actors attempted to continue their parts. But the man made a fresh disturbance in seating himself, and again crossing the stage with long strides. Although he might have been quite comfortable at the wings, he planted his chair full in front, and, defying the audience by his broad back, hid the actors from 3/4 of the pit. A murmur arose, at which anyone else would have felt ashamed, but he, firm and resolute, took no notice of it, and would have remained just as he had placed himself, if, to my misfortune, he had not cast his eyes on me. "Ah, Marquis," he said, taking a seat near me, "how dost thou do? Let me embrace thee." Immediately my face was covered with blushes, that people should see I was acquainted with such a giddy fellow. I was but slightly known to him for all that, but so it is with these men, who assume an acquaintance on nothing, whose embraces we are obliged to endure when we meet them, and who are so familiar with us as to thou and thee us. He began by asking me 100 frivolous questions, raising his voice higher than the actors. Everyone was cursing him, and in order to check him I said, "I should like to listen to the play." "Hast thou not seen it, Marquis? Oh, on my soul, I think it very funny, and I am no fool in these matters. I know the canons of perfection, and Corneille reads me all that he writes." Thereupon he gave me a summary of the piece, informing me scene after scene of what was about to happen, and when we came to any lines which he knew by heart, he recited them aloud before the actor could say them. It was in vain for me to resist. He continued his recitations, and towards the end rose a good while before the rest. For these fashionable fellows, in order to behave gallantly, especially avoid listening to the conclusion. I thanked heaven, and naturally thought that, with the comedy, my misery was ended. But as though this were too good to be expected, my gentleman fastened on me again, recounted his exploits, his uncommon virtues, spoke of his horses, of his love affairs, of his influence at court, and heartily offered me his services. I politely bowed my thanks, all the time devising some way of escape, but he, seeing me eager to depart, said, "Let us leave, everyone is gone." And when we were outside, he prevented me going away by saying, "Marquis, let us go to the cour to show my carriage. It is very well built, and more than one duke and peer has ordered a similar one for my coachmaker." I thanked him, and the better to get off, told him that I was about to give a little entertainment. "Ah, on my life, I shall join it, as one of your friends, and give the go-by to the marshal, to whom I was engaged." "My banquet," I said, "is too slight for gentlemen of your rank." "Nay," he replied, "I am a man of no ceremony, and I go simply to have a chat with thee. I vow I am tired of grand entertainments." "But if you are expected, you will give offence if you stay away." "Thou art joking, Marquis. We all know each other. I pass my time with thee much more pleasantly." I was chiding myself, sad and perplexed at heart at the unlucky result of my excuse, and knew not what to do next to get rid of such a mortal annoyance, when a splendidly built coach, crowded with footmen before and behind, stopped in front of us with a great clatter, from which leaped forth a young man gorgeously dressed, and my boor and he, hastening to embrace each other, surprised the passers-by with their furious encounter. Whilst both were plunged in these fits of civilities, I quietly made my exit without a word, not before I had long groaned under such a martyrdom, cursing this boor whose obstinate persistence kept me from the appointment which had been made with me here.
These annoyances are mingled with the pleasures of life. All goes not, sir, exactly as we wish it. Heaven wills that here below every one should meet bores. Without that, men would be too happy.
But of all my bores, the greatest is Damis, guardian of her whom I adore, who dashes every hope she raises, and has brought it to pass that she dares not see me in his presence. I fear I have already passed the hour agreed on. It is in this walk that Orphise promised to be.
The time of an appointment has generally some latitude, and is not limited to a second.
True, but I tremble. My great passion makes out of nothing a crime against her whom I love.
If this perfect love, which you manifest so well, makes out of nothing a great crime against her whom you love, the pure flame which her heart feels for you, on the other hand, converts all your crimes into nothing.
But, in good earnest, do you believe that I am loved by her?
What? Do you still doubt a love that has been tried?
Ah, it is with difficulty that a heart that truly loves has complete confidence in such a matter. It fears to flatter itself, and, amidst its various cares, what it most wishes is what it least believes. But let us endeavour to discover the delightful creature.
Sir, your necktie is loosened in front.
No matter.
Let me adjust it, if you please.
You are choking me, blockhead. Let it be as it is.
Let me just comb.
Was there ever such stupidity? You have almost taken off my ear with the tooth of the comb.
Your rolls.
Leave them. You are too particular.
They are quite rumpled.
I wish them to be so.
At least allow me, as a special favour, to brush your hat, which is covered with dust.
Brush, then, since it must be so.
Will you wear it like that?
Good heavens, make haste!
It would be a shame.
Eraste, after waiting,
That is enough.
Have a little patience.
He will be the death of me.
Where could you get all this dirt?
Do you intend to keep that hat forever?
It is finished.
Give it me, then.
La Montagne, letting the hat fall.
Ah.
There it is on the ground. I am not much the better for all your brushing. Plague take you.
Let me give it a couple of rubs to take off.
You shall not. The deuce take every servant who dogs your heels, who wearies his master, and does nothing but annoy him by wanting to set himself up as indispensable.
Scene 2. Orphise, Alcidor, Eraste, La Montagne. Orphise passes at the foot of the stage. Alcidor holds her hand.
But do I not see Orphise? Yes, it is she who comes. Whither goeth she so fast? And what man is that who holds her hand?
He bows to her as she passes, and she turns her head another way. Scene 3. Eraste, La Montagne.
What? She sees me here before her, and she passes by, pretending not to know me. What can I think? What do you say? Speak, if you will.
Sir, I say nothing, lest I bore you.
And so indeed you do, if you say nothing to me whilst I suffer such a cruel martyrdom. Give me some answer. I am quite dejected. What am I to think? Say, what do you think of it? Tell me your opinion.
Sir, I desire to hold my tongue, and not to set up for being indispensable.
Hang the impertinent fellow. Go and follow them, see what becomes of them, and do not quit them.
La Montagne, returning.
Shall I follow at a distance?
Yes.
La Montagne, returning.
Without their seeing me, or letting it appear that I was sent after them?
No, you will do much better to let them know that you follow them by my express orders.
La Montagne, returning.
Shall I find you here?
Plague take you. I declare you are the biggest bore in the world.
Scene 4. Eraste, alone.
Ah, how anxious I feel. How I wish I had missed this fatal appointment. I thought I should find everything favourable, and instead of that, my heart is tortured.
Scene 5. Lisandre, Eraste.
I recognized you from under these trees from a distance, dear Marquis, and I came to you at once. As one of my friends, I must sing you a certain air, which I have made for a little couranto, which pleases all the connoisseurs at court, and to which more than a score have already written words. I have wealth, birth, a tolerable employment, and am of some consequence in France. But I would not have failed, for all I am worth, to compose this air which I am going to let you hear. La la, listen attentively, I beg.
He sings an air of a coranto.
Oh, is it not fine?
Ah.
This close is pretty.
He sings the close over again 4 or 5 times successively.
How do you like it?
Very fine indeed.
Oh, the steps which I have arranged are no less pleasing, and the figure in particular is wonderfully graceful.
He sings the words, talks and dances at the same time, and makes Eraste perform the lady's steps.
Stay, the gentleman crosses thus. Then the lady crosses again. Together, then they separate, and the lady comes there. Do you observe the little touch of a feint? This fleuret? These coupés running after the fair one? Back to back, face to face, pressing up close to her?
After finishing,
What do you think of it, Marquis?
All those steps are fine.
For my part, I would not give a fig for your ballet masters.
Evidently.
And the steps, then?
Are wonderful in every particular.
Shall I teach you them, for friendship's sake?
To tell the truth, just now I am somewhat disturbed.
Well, then it shall be when you please. If I had these new words about me, we would read them together, and see which were the prettiest.
Another time.
Farewell. My dearest Baptiste has not seen my curante. I'm going to look for him. We always agree about the tunes. I shall ask him to score it.
Exit, still singing. Scene 6. Eraste, alone.
Heavens! Must we be compelled daily to endure 100 fools because they are men of rank? And must we, in our politeness, demean ourselves so often to applaud when they annoy us?
Scene 7. Eraste, La Montagne.
Sir, Orphise is alone, and is coming this way.
Ah, I feel myself greatly disturbed. I still love the cruel fair one. My reason bids me hate her.
Sir, your reason knows not what it would be at, nor yet what power a mistress has over a man's heart. Whatever just cause we may have to be angry with a fair lady, she can set many things to right by a single word.
Alas, I must confess it. The sight of her inspires me with respect instead of with anger.
Scene 8. Orphise, Eraste, La Montagne.
Your countenance seems to me anything but cheerful. Can it be my presence, Eraste, which annoys you? What is the matter? What is amiss? What makes you heave those sighs at my appearance?
Alas, can you ask me, cruel one, what makes me so sad, and what will kill me? Is it not malicious to feign ignorance of what you have done to me? The gentleman whose conversation made you pass me just now.
Does that disturb you?
Do, cruel one, and you insult my misfortune. Certainly, it ill becomes you to jeer at my grief, and, by outraging my feelings, ungrateful woman, to take advantage of my weakness for you.
I really must laugh, and declare that you are very silly to trouble yourself thus. The man of whom you speak, far from being able to please me, is a bore of whom I have succeeded in ridding myself. One of those troublesome and officious fools who will not suffer a lady to be anywhere alone, but come up at once with soft speech, offering you a hand against which one rebels. I pretended to be going away in order to hide my intention, and he gave me his hand as far as my coach. I soon got rid of him in that way, and returned by another gate, to come to you.
Orphise, can I believe what you say? And is your heart really true to me?
You are most kind to speak thus, when I justify myself against your frivolous complaints. I am still wonderfully simple, and my foolish kindness—
Ah, too severe beauty, do not be angry. Being under your sway, I will implicitly believe whatever you are kind enough to tell me. Deceive your hapless lover if you will. I shall respect you to the last gasp. Abuse my love, refute me yours, show me another lover triumphant. Yes, I will endure everything for your divine charms. I shall die, but even then I will not complain.
As such sentiments rule your heart, I shall know. On my side—
Scene 9. Alcandre, Orphise, Eraste, La Montagne. Alcandre, to Orphise.
Marquis, one word. Madame, I pray you to pardon me if I am indiscreet in venturing, before you, to speak with him privately.
Exit Orphise. Scene 10. Alcandre, Eraste, La Montagne.
I have a difficulty, Marquis, in making my request, but a fellow has just insulted me, and I earnestly wish, not to be behindhand with him, that you would at once go and carry him a challenge from me. You know that in a like case I would joyfully repay you in the same coin.
Eraste, after a brief silence.
I have no desire to boast, but I was a soldier before I was a courtier. I served 14 years, and I think I may fairly refrain from such a step with propriety, not fearing that the refusal of my sword can be imputed to cowardice. A duel puts one in an awkward light, and our king is not the mere shadow of a monarch. He knows how to make the highest in the state obey him, and I think that he acts like a wise prince. When he needs my service, I have courage enough to perform it, but I have none to displease him. His commands are a supreme law to me. Seek someone else to disobey him. I speak to you, Viscount, with entire frankness. In every other matter I am at your service. Farewell.
Scene 11. Eraste, La Montagne.
To the deuce with these boors, 50 times over. Where now has my beloved gone to?
I know not.
Go and search everywhere till you find her. I shall await you in this walk.
Ballet to Act 1. First entry. Players at mall crying out "Where?" compel Eraste to draw back. After the players at mall have finished, Eraste returns to wait for Orphise. Second entry. Inquisitive folk advance, turning round him to see who he is, and cause him again to retire for a little while. End of Act 1. Act 2 of The Boors by Moliere. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 2. Scene 1. Eraste, alone.
Are the boys gone at last? I think they reign here on every side. The more I flee from them, the more I light on them. And to add to my uneasiness, I cannot find her whom I wish to find. The thunder and rain have soon passed over, and have not dispersed the fashionable company. Would to heaven that those gifts which had showered upon us had driven away all the people who weary me. The sun sinks fast. I am surprised that my servant has not yet returned.
Scene 2. Alcippe, Eraste.
Good day to you.
Eraste, aside.
How now? Is my passion always to be turned aside?
Console me, Marquis, in respect of a wonderful game of piquet which I lost yesterday to a certain Saint-Bouvin, to whom I could have given 15 points and the deal. It was a desperate blow, which has been too much for me since yesterday, and would make me wish all players at the deuce. A blow, I assure you, enough to make me hang myself in public. I wanted only 2 tricks. The other wanted a piquet. I dealt. He takes 6 and asks for another deal. I, having a little of everything, refuse. I had the ace of clubs, fancy my bad luck. The ace, king, knave, 10 and 8 of hearts, and as I wanted to make the point, threw away king and queen of diamonds, 10 and queen of spades. I had 5 hearts in hand and took up the queen, which just made me a high sequence of 5. But my gentleman, to my extreme surprise, lays down on the table a sequence of 6 low diamonds, together with the ace. I had thrown away king and queen of the same colour. But As he wanted a piquet, I got the better of my fear and was confident at least of making 2 tricks. Besides the 7 diamonds, he had 4 spades, and playing the smallest of them, put me in the predicament of not knowing which of my 2 aces to keep. I threw away, rightly as I thought, the ace of hearts, but he had discarded 4 clubs, and I found myself made capot by a 6 of hearts, unable, from sheer vexation, to say a single word. By heaven, account to me for this frightful piece of luck. Could it be credited without having seen it?
It is in play that luck is mostly seen.
'Sdeath, you shall judge for yourself if I am wrong, and if it is without cause that this accident enrages me. For here are our 2 hands, which I carry about with me on purpose. Stay, here is my hand, as I told you, and here...
I understand everything from your description, and admit that you have a good cause to be enraged. But I must leave you on a certain business. Farewell. But take comfort in your misfortune.
Who, I? I shall always have that luck on my mind. It is worse than a thunderbolt to me. I mean to show it to all the world.
He retires, and on the point of returning, says meditatively,
A 6 of hearts. 2 points.
Where in the world are we? Go where we will, we see nothing but fools.
Scene 3. Eraste, La Montagne.
Ha! How long you have been, and how you have made me suffer.
Sir, I could not make greater haste.
But at length do you bring me some news?
Doubtless, and by express command from her you love, I have something to tell you.
What? Already my heart yearns for the message. Speak.
Do you wish to know what it is?
Yes. Speak quickly.
Sir, pray wait. I have almost run myself out of breath.
Do you find any pleasure in keeping me in suspense?
Since you wish to know, at once, the orders which I have received from this charming person, I will tell you. Upon my word, without boasting of my zeal, I went a great way to find the lady, and if—
Hang your digressions!
Fie, you should somewhat moderate your passion, and Seneca—
Seneca is a fool in your mouth, since he tells me nothing of all that concerns me. Tell me your message at once.
To satisfy you, Orphise, an insect has got among your hair.
Let it alone.
This lovely one sends you word—
What?
Guess.
Are you aware that I am in no laughing mood?
Her message is that you are to remain in this place, that in a short time you shall see her here, when she has got rid of some country ladies, who greatly bore all people at court.
Let us then stay in the place she has selected. But since this message affords me some leisure, let me muse a little.
Exit La Montagne.
I propose to write for her some verses to an air which I know she likes.
He walks up and down the stage in a reverie. Scene 4. WilsonOrmin and Eraste at the side of the stage unseen.
Everyone will be of my opinion.
Do you think you will carry your point by obstinacy?
I think my reasons better than yours.
I wish someone could hear both.
I see a gentleman here who is not ignorant. He will be able to judge of our dispute. Marquis, a word, I beg of you. Allow us to ask you to decide in a quarrel between us 2. We had a discussion arising from our different opinions as to what may distinguish the most perfect lovers.
That is a question difficult to settle. You had best look for a more skilful judge.
No, you speak to no purpose. Your wit is much commended, and we know you. We know that everyone with justice gives you the character of a—
Oh, I beseech you.
In a word, you shall be our umpire, and you must spare us a couple of minutes.
Climene to Orante.
Now you are retaining one who must condemn you. For, to be brief, if what I venture to hold be true, this gentleman will give the victory to my arguments.
Eraste aside.
Would that I could get hold of any rascal to invent something to get me off.
Orante to Climene.
For my part, I am too much assured of his sense to fear that he will decide against me.
To Eraste.
Well, this great contest which rages between us is to know whether a lover should be jealous.
Or the better to explain my opinion and yours, which ought to please most, a jealous man or one that is not so.
For my part, I am clearly for the last.
As for me, I stand up for the first.
I believe that our heart must declare for him who best displays his respect.
And I that, if our sentiments are to be shown, it ought to be for him who makes his love most apparent.
Yes, but we perceive the ardour of a lover much better through respect than through jealousy.
It is my opinion that he who is attached to us loves us the more that he shows himself jealous.
Fie, Climene! Do not call lovers those men whose love is like hatred, and who, instead of showing their respect and their ardour, give themselves no thought save how to become wearisome, whose minds, being ever prompted by some gloomy passion, seek to make a crime out of the slightest actions, are too blind to believe them innocent, and demand an explanation for a glance, who, if we seem a little sad, at once complain that their presence is the cause of it, and when the least joy sparkles in our eyes, will have their rivals to be at the bottom of it, who, in short, assuming a right because they are greatly in love, never speak to us, save to pick a quarrel, dare to forbid anyone to approach us, and become the tyrants of their very conquerors. As for me, I want lovers to be respectful. Their submission is a sure proof of our sway.
Fie! Do not call those men true lovers who are never violent in their passion, those lukewarm gallants, whose tranquil hearts already think everything quite sure, have no fear of losing us, and overweeningly suffer their love to slumber day by day, are on good terms with their rivals, and leave a free field for their perseverance. So sedate a love incites my anger. To be without jealousy is to love coldly. I would that a lover, in order to prove his flame, should have his mind shaken by eternal suspicions, and by sudden outbursts show clearly the value he sets upon her to whose hand he aspires. Then his restlessness is applauded, and, if he sometimes treats us a little roughly, the pleasure of seeing him penitent at our feet, to excuse himself for the outbreak of which he has been guilty, his tears, his despair at having been capable of displeasing us, are a charm to soothe all our anger.
If much violence is necessary to please you, I know who would satisfy you. I am acquainted with several men in Paris who love well enough to beat their fair ones openly.
If to please you, there must never be jealousy. I know several men just suited to you, lovers of such enduring mood that they would see you in the arms of 30 people without being concerned about it.
And now you must, by your sentence, declare whose love appears to you preferable.
Orphise appears at the back of the stage and sees Eraste between Orante and Climene.
Since I cannot avoid giving judgment, I mean to satisfy you both at once, and in order not to blame that which is pleasing in your eyes. The jealous man loves more, but the other loves wisely.
The judgment is very judicious, but—
It is enough. I have finished. After what I have said, permit me to leave you.
Scene 5. Orphise, Eraste. Eraste seeing Orphise and going to meet her.
How long you have been, madam, and how I suffer.
Nay, nay, do not leave such a pleasant conversation. You are wrong to blame me for having arrived too late.
Pointing to Orante and Climene, who have just left.
You had wherewithal to get on without me.
Will you be angry with me without reason, and reproach me with what I am made to suffer? Oh, I beseech you, stay.
Leave me, I beg, and hasten to rejoin your company.
Scene 6. Eraste alone.
Heaven, must boors of both sexes conspire this day to frustrate my dearest wishes? But let me follow her in spite of her resistance, and make my innocence clear in her eyes.
Scene 7. Durante, Eraste.
Marquis, continually we find tedious people interrupting the course of our pleasures. You see me enraged on account of a splendid hunt, which a booby, oh, it is a story I must relate to you.
I am looking for someone, and cannot stay.
Durante, retaining him.
Egad, I shall tell it you as we go along. We were a well-selected company, who met yesterday to hunt a stag. On purpose, we went to sleep on the ground itself. That is, my dear sir, far away in the forest. As the chase is my greatest pleasure, I wished, to do the thing well, to go to the wood myself. We decided to concentrate our efforts upon a stag, which everyone said was 7 years old. But my own opinion was, though I did not stop to observe the marks, that it was only a stag of the 2nd year. We had separated, as was necessary, into different parties, and were hastily breakfasting on some new-laid eggs, when a regular country gentleman, with a long sword, proudly mounted on his brood mare, which he honoured with the name of his good mare, came up to pay us an awkward compliment, presenting to us at the same time, to increase our vexation, a great booby of a son, as stupid as his father. He styled himself a great sportsman, and begged that he might have the pleasure of accompanying us. Heaven preserve every sensible sportsman, when hunting, from a fellow who carries a dog's horn, which sounds when it ought not, from those gentry who, followed by 10 mangy dogs, call them my pack, and play the part of wonderful hunters. His request granted, and his knowledge commended, we all of us started the deer. Within thrice the length of the leash, tally-ho! The dogs were put on the track of the stag. I encouraged them, and blew a loud blast. My stag emerged from the wood, and crossed a pretty wide plain, the dogs after him, but in such good order that you could have covered them all with one cloak. He made for the forest. Then we slipped the old pick upon him. I quickly brought out my sorrel horse. You have seen him?
I think not.
Not seen him? The animal is as good as he is beautiful. I bought him some days ago from Gaveau. I leave you to think whether that dealer, who has such a respect for me, would deceive me in such a matter. I am satisfied with the horse. He never indeed sold a better, or a better shaped one. The head of a barb, with a clear star. The neck of a swan, slender and very straight. No more shoulder than a hare. Short-jointed, and full of vivacity in his motion. Such feet! Oh, by heaven, such feet! Double-haunched. To tell you the truth, it was I alone who found the way to break him in. Gaveau's little John never mounted him without trembling. though he did his best to look unconcerned. A back that beats any horse's for breadth, and legs. Oh, ye heavens! In short, he is a marvel. Believe me, I have refused 100 pistoles for him, with one of the horses destined for the king to boot. I then mounted, and was in high spirits to see some of the hounds coursing over the plain to get the better of the deer. I pressed on, and found myself in a by-thicket, at the heels of the dogs, with none else but Drakkar. There for an hour our stag was at bay. Upon this I cheered on the dogs, and made a terrible row. In short, no hunter was ever more delighted. I alone started him again, and all was going on swimmingly, when a young stag joined ours. Some of my dogs left the others. Oh, Marquis, I saw them, as you may suppose, follow with hesitation, and Finot was at a loss. But he suddenly turned, which delighted me very much, and drew the dogs the right way, whilst I sounded horned and hallooed, Finot! Finot! I again with pleasure discovered the track of the deer by a molehill, and blew away at my leisure. A few dogs ran back to me, when, as ill luck would have it, the young stag came over to our country bumpkin. My blunderer began blowing like mad, and bellowed aloud, Tally-ho! 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 All my dogs left me, and made for my booby. I hastened there, and found the track again on the high road. But, my dear fellow, I had scarcely cast my eyes on the ground, when I discovered it was the other animal, and was very much annoyed at it. It was in vain to point out to the country fellow the difference between the print of my stag's hoof and his. He still maintained, like an ignorant sportsman, that this was the pack stag, and by this disagreement he gave the dogs time to get a great way off. I was in a rage, and heartily cursing the fellow, I spurred my horse up hill and down dale, and brushed through boughs as thick as my arm. I brought back my dogs to my first scent, who set off to my great joy in search of our stag, as though he were in full view. They started him again, but did ever such an accident happen? To tell you the truth, Marquis, it floored me. Our stag, newly started, passed our bumpkin, who, thinking to show what an admirable sportsman he was, shot him just in the forehead with a horse pistol that he had brought with him, and cried out to me from a distance, Ah, I've brought the beast down. Good heavens! Did anyone ever hear of pistols in stag hunting? As for me, when I came to the spot, I found the whole affair so odd that I put spurs to my horse in a rage, and returned home at a gallop, without saying a single word to that ignorant fool.
You could not have done better. Your prudence was admirable. That is how we must get rid of boars. Farewell.
When you like, we will go somewhere where we need not dread country hunters.
Eraste alone.
Very well. I think I shall lose patience in the end. Let me make all haste and try to excuse myself.
Ballet to Act 2. First entry. Bowlers stop Eraste to measure a distance about which there is a dispute. He gets clear of them with difficulty and leaves them to dance a measure composed of all the postures usual to that game. Second entry. Little boys with slings enter and interrupt them, who are in their turn driven out by. Third entry. Cobblers, men and women, their fathers and others, who are also driven out in their turn. Fourth entry. A gardener who dances alone and then retires. End of Act 2. Act 3 of The Boors by Moliere. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 3. Scene 1. Eraste, La Montagne.
It is true that on the one hand my efforts have succeeded. The object of my love is at length appeased. But on the other hand I am wearied. The cruel stars have persecuted my passion with double fury. Yes, Damis, her guardian, the worst of bores, is again hostile to my tenderest desires, has forbidden me to see his lovely niece, and wishes to provide her tomorrow with another husband. Yet Orphise, in spite of his refusal, deigns to grant me this evening a favour. I have prevailed upon the fair one to suffer me to see her in her own house, in private. Love prefers above all secret favours. It finds a pleasure in the obstacle which it masters. The slightest conversation with the beloved beauty becomes, when it is forbidden, a supreme favour. I am going to the rendezvous. It is almost the hour, since I wish to be there rather before than after my time.
Shall I follow you?
No. I fear lest you should make me known to certain suspicious persons.
But
I do not desire it.
I must obey you. But at least, if at a distance...
For the 20th time will you hold your tongue? And will you never give up this practice of perpetually making yourself a troublesome servant?
Scene 2. Caritides, Eraste.
Sir, it is an unseasonable time to do myself the honour of waiting upon you. Morning would be more fit for performing such a duty, but it is not very easy to meet you, for you are always asleep or in town. At least your servants so assure me. I have chosen this opportunity to see you, and yet this is a great happiness with which fortune favours me, for a couple of moments later I should have missed you.
Sir, do you desire something of me?
I quit myself, sir, of what I owe you, and come to you. Excuse the boldness which inspires me.
Without so much ceremony, what have you to say to me?
As the rank, wit, and generosity which every one extols in you.
Yes, I am very much extolled. Never mind that, sir.
Sir, it is a vast difficulty when a man has to introduce himself. We should always be presented to the great by people who commend us in words, whose voice, being listened to, delivers with authority what may cause our slender merit to be known. In short, I could have wished that some persons well informed could have told you, sir, what I am.
I see sufficiently, sir, what you are. Your manner of accosting me makes that clear.
Yes, I am a man of learning, charmed by your worth, but one of those learned men whose names end simply in us. Nothing is so common as a name with a Latin termination. Those we dress in Greek have a much superior look, and in order to have one ending in "-ese", I call myself Mr. Caritides.
Caritide be it. What have you to say?
I wish, sir, to read you a petition which I venture to beg of you to present to the king, as your position enables you to do.
Why, sir? You can present it yourself.
It is true that the king grants that supreme favour, but from the very excess of his rare kindness, so many villainous petitions, sir, are presented that they choke the good ones. The hope I entertain is that mine should be presented when his majesty is alone.
Well, you can do it, and choose your own time.
Ah, sir, the doorkeepers are such terrible fellows. They treat men of learning like snobs and butts. I can never get beyond the guard-room. The ill treatment I am compelled to suffer would make me withdraw from court forever, if I had not conceived with certain hope that you will be my Maecenas with the king. Yes, your influence is to me a certain means.
Well, then, give it me. I will present it.
Here it is. But at least hear it read.
No.
That you may be acquainted with it, sir, I beg. To the king. Sire, Your most humble, most obedient, most faithful, and most learned subject and servant, Caridides, a Frenchman by birth, a Greek by profession, having considered the great and notable abuses which are perpetrated in the inscriptions on the signs of the houses, shops, taverns, bowling alleys, and other places in your good city of Paris, inasmuch as certain ignorant composers of the said inscriptions subvert, by a barbarous, pernicious, and hateful spelling, every kind of sense and reason, without any regard for etymology, analogy, energy, or allegory whatsoever, to the great scandal of the Republic of Letters, and of the French nation, which is degraded and dishonored by the said abuses and gross faults in the eyes of strangers, and notably of Germans, curious readers, and inspectors of the said inscriptions.
This petition is very long, and may very likely weary...
Ah, sir, not a word could be cut out.
Finish quickly.
Humbly petitions your Majesty to constitute, for the good of his state and the glory of his realm, an office of Controller, Supervisor, Corrector, Reviser, and Restorer in general of the said inscriptions, and with this office to honor your suppliant, as well as in consideration of his rare and eminent erudition, as of the great and signal services which he has rendered to the state and to your Majesty, by making the anagram of your said Majesty in French, Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac, Chaldean, Arabic.
Very good. Give it me quickly and retire. It shall be seen by the king. The thing is as good as done.
Alas, sir, to show my petition is everything. If the king but see it, I am sure of my point. For as his justice is great in all things, he will never be able to refuse my prayer. For the rest, to raise your fame to the skies, give me your name and surname in writing, and I will make a poem, in which the first letters of your name shall appear at both ends of the lines, and in each half measure.
Yes, you shall have it tomorrow, Mr. Caritide.
Alone.
Upon my word, such learned men are perfect asses. Another time I should have heartily laughed at his folly.
Scene 3. Orphise, Eraste.
Though a matter of great consequence brings me here, I wished that man to leave before speaking to you.
Very well, but make haste, for I wish to be gone.
I almost fancy that the man who has just left you has vastly annoyed you, sir, by his visit. He is a troublesome old man, whose mind is not quite right, and for whom I have always some excuse ready to get rid of him. On the Mall, in the Luxembourg, and in the Tuileries, he wearies people with his fancies. Men like you should avoid the conversation of all those good-for-nothing pedants. For my part, I have no fear of troubling you, since I am come, sir, to make your fortune.
Eraste, aside.
This is some alchemist. One of those creatures who have nothing, and are always promising you ever so much riches.
Aloud.
Have you discovered that blessed stone, sir, which alone can enrich all the kings of the earth?
Aha! What a funny idea! Heaven forbid, sir, that I should be one of those fools. I do not foster idle dreams. I bring you here sound words of advice which I would communicate through you to the king, and which I always carry about me, sealed up. None of those silly plans and vain chimeras which are dinned in the ears of our superintendents. None of your beggarly schemes, which rise to no more than 20 or 30 millions, but one which, at the lowest reckoning, will give the king around 400 millions yearly, with ease, without risk or suspicion, without oppressing the nation in any way. In short, it is a scheme for an inconceivable profit, which will be found feasible at the first explanation. Yes, if only through you I can be encouraged.
Well, we will talk of it. I am rather in a hurry.
If you will promise to keep it a secret, I will unfold to you this important scheme.
No, I do not wish to know your secret.
Sir, I believe you are too discreet to divulge it, and I wish to communicate it to you frankly in 2 words. I must see that no one can hear us.
After seeing that no one is listening, he approaches Eraste's ear.
This marvelous plan, of which I am the inventor, is—
A little farther off, sir, for a certain reason.
You know, without any need of my telling you, the great profit which the king yearly receives from his seaports. Well, the plan of which no one has yet thought, and which is an easy matter, is to make all the coasts of France into famous ports. This would amount to vast sums, and if—
The scheme is good, and will greatly please the king. Farewell. We shall see each other again.
At all events, assist me, for you are the first to whom I have spoken of it.
Yes, yes.
If you would lend me a couple of pistols, you could repay yourself out of the profits of the scheme.
Eraste gives money to Ormin.
Gladly.
Alone.
Would to heaven that at such a price I could get rid of all who trouble me. How ill-timed their visit is. At last I think I may go. Will anyone else come to detain me?
Scene 4. Filin, Eraste.
Marquis, I have just heard strange tidings.
What?
That someone has just now quarrelled with you.
With me?
What is the use of dissimulation? I know on good authority that you have been called out, and as your friend, I come, at all events, to offer you my services against all mankind.
I am obliged to you, but believe me, you do me—
You will not admit it, but you are going out without attendance. Stay in town, or go into the country. You shall go nowhere without my accompanying you.
Eraste, aside.
Oh, I shall go mad.
Where is the use of hiding from me?
I swear to you, Marquis, that you have been deceived.
It is no use denying it.
May heaven smite me if any dispute—
Do you think I believe you?
Good heaven, I tell you without concealment that—
Do not think me such a dupe and simpleton.
Will you oblige me?
No.
Leave me, I pray.
Nothing of the sort, Marquis.
An assignation tonight at a certain place.
I do not quit you. Wherever it be, I mean to follow you.
On my soul, since you mean me to have a quarrel, I agree to it, to satisfy your zeal. I shall be with you, who put me in a rage, and of whom I cannot get rid by fair means.
That is a sorry way of receiving the service of a friend, but as I do you so ill an office, farewell. Finish what you have on hand without me.
You will be my friend when you leave me.
Alone.
But see what misfortunes happen to me. They will have made me miss the hour appointed.
Scene 5. Damis, L'Epine, Eraste, La Riviere, and his companions. Damis, aside.
What? The rascal hopes to obtain her in spite of me? Ugh! My just wrath shall know how to prevent him.
Eraste, aside.
I see someone there at Orphise's door. What? Must there always be some obstacle to the passion she sanctions?
Damis, to L'Epine.
Yes, I have discovered that my niece, in spite of my care, is to receive Eraste in her room tonight, alone.
La Riviere, to his companions.
What do I hear those people saying of our master? Let us approach safely without betraying ourselves.
Damis, to L'Epine.
But before he has a chance of accomplishing his design, we must pierce his treacherous heart with 1,000 blows. Go and fetch those whom I mentioned just now, and place them in ambush where I told you, so that at the name of Eraste they may be ready to avenge my honour, which his passion has the presumption to outrage, to break off the assignation which brings him here, and quench his guilty flame in his blood.
La Riviere attacking Damis with his companions.
Before your fury can destroy him, wretch, you shall have to deal with us.
Though he would have killed me, honour urges me here to rescue the uncle of my mistress.
To Damis.
I am on your side, sir.
He draws his sword and attacks La Riviere and his companions, whom he puts to flight.
Heavens! By whose aid do I find myself saved from a certain death? To whom am I indebted for so rare a service?
Eraste, returning.
In serving you, I have done but an act of justice.
Heavens! Can I believe my ears? Is this the hand of Eraste?
Yes, yes, sir, it is I. Too happy that my hand has rescued you. Too unhappy in having deserved your hatred.
What? Eraste, whom I was resolved to have assassinated, has just used his sword to defend me. Oh, this is too much. My heart is compelled to yield. Whatever your love may have meditated tonight, this remarkable display of generosity ought to stifle all animosity. I blush for my crime and blame my prejudice. My hatred has too long done you injustice. To show you openly I no longer entertain it. I unite you this very night to your love.
Scene 6. Orphise, Damis, Eraste. Orphise entering with a silver candlestick in her hand.
Sir, what has happened that's such a terrible disturbance?
Niece, nothing but what is very agreeable, since, after having blamed for a long time your love for Eraste, I now give him to you for a husband. His arm has warded off the deadly thrust aimed at me. I desire that your hand reward him.
I owe everything to you. If, therefore, it is to pay him your debt, I consent, as he has saved your life.
My heart is so overwhelmed by this great miracle, that amidst this ecstasy, I doubt if I am awake.
Let us celebrate the happy lot that awaits you, and let our violins put us in a joyful mood.
As the violins strike up, there is a knock at the door.
Who knocks so loud?
Scene 7. Damis, Orphise, Eraste, L'Epine.
Sir, here are masks, with kits and tabors.
The masks enter, filling the stage.
What? Boars forever? Hello, guards there! Turn out these rascals for me.
Ballet to Act 3. First entry. Swiss guards with halberds drive out all the troublesome masks, and then retire to make room for a dance of. Second entry. 4 shepherds and a shepherdess, who, in the opinion of all who saw it, concluded the entertainment with much grace. End of Act 3. End of The Boars by Moliere.